minigame garden.
Tyler McCarthy, who goes by Zzox on the internet, that's Zzox, is a solo game dev and musician who has completed over 25 game projects during his 8+ years of development. His most recent release is called Good. It's a game which depicts a day in the life of a typical American teenage boy who plays sports and stumbles around a world rendered in quirky 2D pixel art. The linear story has plenty of emotional punch, while the minigames bring me back to my days of miniclip and the smell of summer's cut grass through the window. Tyler also has a website, zzzox.net, where he blogs about his experience as a game dev and hosts a lot of his free projects. There's some great stuff there. It's my honor to welcome Tyler into the garden today. Well, hey, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show today. To start, can you talk me through your journey with games? What is your history with playing games? How did you get into tech in general and then games in particular?
Yeah. Let's see. I feel like I had a somewhat normal. I don't know. I was born in '91, so I didn't have an N64, but I had a Game Boy Color, and then I kind of grew up on like a little bit of the Flash era of games, and then eventually had a PS2. So yeah, like my favorite games growing up were like the Zelda Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, and then there's this game Dragon Warrior Monsters or Dragon Quest Monsters, depending on what part of the world you're in, which was Dragon Quest's response to Pokemon, but the systems were a bit deeper. I really like that.
Yeah.
And then PC, yeah, just a lot of. I mean, I would just go on, maybe middle school or elementary school. You would just go on the computer and you'd go to any Flash portal and you would just play games, and then I would never remember who made the games or anything. Like I never even thought about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then PC. I think my favorite was like Age of Empires 2. That was probably my favorite game on the PC growing up. And I mean, we played a bunch of all sorts of games. I remember liking Myst a lot. And that was one where maybe that was a bit later, but like friends would see me playing it and be like, "What? Why are you doing this? Like, what's the appeal here?" But yeah, and they were more into like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which like I was into too. Tony Hawk was awesome. And yeah, just like I think a lot of your average games around that time. I got really into Jak and Daxter on the PS2.
Oh, cool.
So that series I really liked. And I always wanted to play. We didn't get an N64 growing up, but that's the system I wanted. So I always wanted to play Ocarina of Time, and then just rarely ever got to. Like I'd play it for 5 minutes at like my cousin's house, but I wanted to play it and never did. And then, I got to play it like later, but I think it maybe lost I still think it's a good game, but I don't think it had the effect that it would have had I played it as like a fifth grader or something.
The one that got away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it like helps. It's a hard way to put this, but like how I think a lot about just like games or media in general is like you experience a part of it or you see it from the outside and then you create an idea of what it is in your head. So like Ocarina of Time was this like ultimate adventure, mystical, which it kind of is, but like my own ideas of it were different than it came out to be. And yeah, so I did miss out on some of the N64 stuff. And then around high school, I kind of just stopped playing games. I do remember playing Quap, the Flash game by Bennett Foddy, and getting pretty into it. I was just like, this is so cool. And just like such a unique idea, but I didn't really do didn't really go anywhere with, just didn't go too deep in high school. And then college went to 1 year of college, and my roommate had an N64, but it was like the PS2 era. So we would just play, Super Smash Brothers and be like, all high or drunk or something, and having a great time just playing 10-minute rounds of Super Smash Brothers. And then just didn't really play much at all for years after that until I went to one of those coding boot camps because I worked a lot of different industries and stuff, and none of them paid well or treated me well. And I had messed around with. Actually, I went to 1 year of college, and I took computer science, but college wasn't for me at the time, and didn't do well at all. And I don't know. I think it was just like maybe I can do this. And I went to one of those coding boot camps in Austin, Texas, and it just it was hard. It was really hard to learn, but eventually just everything kind of clicked. And then I ended up getting a job after a couple months and started working in the industry. And a couple of friends had played, or I'd seen a couple of friends like make games using like JavaScript, like web frameworks and stuff, or they talked about like Unity and Unreal. And I messed around with everything until like 2018. I would try like once, and it just like nothing would take, and then I would try something else. And I always had an idea of I had a specific game I wanted to make. And I just tried it in every different kind of framework. And then eventually I landed on Phaser, which is a JavaScript framework. And then I used someone had made the first level of the NES Mario, and I just messed around with it and like changed it so like Mario could double jump. And then I like made my own little map editor, not map editor, like an importer for like a tiled is the name of the app, but like a map editor. And just got it, just did some stuff and like made some stuff work basically. And it was really rewarding because it was the first time. I don't know. I tried to do it. Tried to make games so many times growing up, and it was just such a big. It's just hard to get stuff to like do anything on the screen. Like when I first started, like just getting a little sprite, having a sprite, and like having it animate and move around was such a challenge. And it was cool to like finally be able to like do that and have them like collide with things and. Have enemies and stuff. And so that was 2018. And I don't think I hadn't like stopped since then. So about 8 years. I think maybe like a week or two is the longest I've been without doing something game related.
I mean, that's a cool story, I think, in particular, because it kind of brings home something I hear often enough on this show, which is like, you can try once at one phase in life at any number of like programming or tech related things, and then come back to it years later or at a time where you feel a little bit more committed and things can click in. So it's inspiring to me to have these conversations, because I think folks listening maybe who want to make a game or who have been frustrated in the past potentially can take that to heart. My next question is regarding kind of your overall philosophy in game design, or if that's too heady. I guess what I'm interested in is you've obviously been making games for a number of years now. What keeps you coming back to games? What keeps them interesting, particularly from the design side for you?
I feel like I could talk a lot about design philosophies, and I don't like, and they're not even concrete. Like my own design philosophies or ideas or whatever aren't concrete at all. So it would just be like, just a weird stream of consciousness rambling. But with games, I think what really helps me stay into it is just like there's the creative and the technical, and I think like every art form has it. Like painting, you have to be creative in what to paint, but you also have to have the physical skills of like making the brush do what it wants. And I think one of the things I like is that the technical part of making games is so deep. There's like so much to learn, and like the last 6 months I've been messing around trying to learn like 3D graphics and stuff, and like making stuff from scratch. And it's just there's so much stuff out there, and it's a never ending thing that to learn about graphics. And yeah, so having like the technical side of things really helps, because I don't know, if I'm not feeling creative, there's always something like more technical I can do. And vice versa. If I feel like if I'm just so worn out from coding, I can like do pixel art or make some music, or yeah. So there's just like so many different things I can do. It's just like I always have stuff to work on. Whereas like, I've made electronic music for a long time, but it just hasn't stuck like games has. It always required more like motivation to get into. Whereas like with games, I can just sit down at the computer and start. Whereas music is like, I don't know. There's still times where it just comes out really easily, and I can just get into that like flow kind of state. And but that's just, it hasn't been as easy as games has been.
The combination of factors and using that as a kind of stepping stone to creating like a day-by-day routine, I think is such an important thing to hear for a lot of folks trying to create that sort of creative routine around working a job, or just even not just trying to come back to it day to day. I think it's important to remember because in games, I think a lot of the time we think, games are code. But as you say, like you can spend weeks and weeks and weeks just creating assets, or writing songs, or recording songs, or what have you. So I think that's really cool to hear for someone with more of an eclectic creative taste, or maybe a brain that feels like they can't be, coding every day, remembering that there's so much that goes into it and that make games beautiful. Speaking of which, you host a lot of your games for free on your website, which we'll put in the show notes, Zzox.net. My favorite of the ones listed there were Death End and Isle. The aesthetic of Death End was just awesome. Definitely evokes my childhood as well, as kind of Game Boy meets Undertale. And then as a huge Legend of the River King fan with a soft spot for rhythm games, Isle was totally my stuff. So I was wondering if you could, before we get on to kind of your bigger game that we're going to talk about today, I was wondering if you could tell me about kind of the favorite small games that you've made over the years, or maybe some fond memories of them.
Yeah. I don't know if I talked about Legend of the River King, but I played that game. My whole family's big into fishing.
Oh, cool.
Like that's like they're obsessed. Like both my dad and my brother are captains, and they've like both at different times ran like fishing charters where they would take people out fishing like in the ocean.
Wow.
And I just grew up around it. I didn't really get it like they did. I've been fishing a decent amount, but they could do it every day and never tire of it. And they got the game for my brother because it was fishing. But then I played it and it was like an RPG, and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And he kind of got tired of it pretty quick. And I think that's what I was trying to do for a long. I like remade part of the game a few times, and that was one of my earliest games actually. And earliest game attempts, and I had tried it a few times and just didn't look or feel good. And then I think when my skills were at a certain point, I realized I could do it basically. And just went with like kind of like the Game Boy aesthetic. And I think the first thing I did, I made this like pixel art, this like color shader that it's sometimes hard to notice, but when like the light changes in Isle, all of the colors are like snapped to a palette. So the only colors you will see are like 16, or I forget what palette it is, but it's like 16 or 32 different colors. So it's like I don't know whether the word for this is, but it's like an effect to like limit the output instead of like enable output. So like it's like reducing the colors to make it look like a Game Boy Color, basically. And
Yeah.
and I got a lot of really good feedback to Isle, and people really liked it. And I had just a bunch of friends that played it, and and it was cool, like making a bunch of music for it. And the hardest part was getting. I mean, the whole thing is based around like the music's playing in the background, and then when you fish and the fish hits, the drum beat comes in synced with the music that's already playing. And so just getting all that set up was a bit of a challenge, but it was like cool having it all working and stuff. And and then someone from coolmathgames.com approached me and was like, "Hey, we'll license this game. We'll put it on our site. We'll pay you, like $1,000." And so I did that, and it was like more chill than I don't know. I guess I just thought it would be more like a website approaching me. I thought it would be more predatory is the right word, but I thought it would be more like
transactional, maybe.
Yeah, but they like person was really nice, and my experience was great with Cool Math Games. And they were just like, "Hey, can you add a couple small things and change a couple things, and just to make it work for our site?" And I did that, and then I don't have access to the stats, but I can tell it's been played a lot. Like I can see the number of ratings, and there's like a lot of ratings, so I can tell people have played it a lot. It's like I don't think they have comment sections because it's more of like a site for kids, so they don't want kids just like having full access to a comment section or whatever. But it's cool that just like a lot of people have probably played it, and getting good feedback. And then Deafened, that was just a Newgrounds Halloween thing where they were having like make a game for Halloween, and I was just like, this would be cool, I guess. I don't really know what I was like what I was trying to necessarily go for. I mean, I love Undertale. Undertale's such an awesome game, and I've always thought about like making my own battle system. So I made it. It was very simple. Like one of the interesting things about making that, maybe this is what I wanted to talk about earlier, but it's like you get to know the developers of a game when you try to make the same type of game. Because I started adding this like battle system, and it was just really hard. It like wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, like bullet hell kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of things that go into it that I wasn't really thinking about. And so it was like almost like I'm getting to know Toby Fox in a weird way, because I'm like treading the same kind of path.
Yeah.
Like getting this, and like after making that game and then going back and playing Undertale, you're like, oh my God, like this, it's like, I'm even more impressed with Undertale just because of like, I mean, there's like a lot of like fourth wall breaks, or like when you're like breaking the game in Undertale, but also like just the aspect of the levels itself. There's like a lot of really interesting creativity, like the spider level, the spider boss fight. Just thinking about that, and like, oh, how would you do? Like, I'm just trying to like mentally prototype it in my head. I was like, that's harder than I thought it was when I first saw it. So, it was just like a cool little experiment. And I think it was the first time I've ever made a game where it like, I was able to like have a mood throughout. I
Mm.
think usually before that, I'm just kind of like throwing stuff at a wall. But this time I had like, like an idea that I was going for, and like kind of like a spooky thing. But I kept it to like the Game Boy palette, not palette, the resolution size. It's like really tiny. It's like 160 by 144 or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it was a fun thing to make, and it was only like 3 or 4 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. You've mentioned friends trying out one of the games you talked about and kind of getting to know developers in a weird way by trying to emulate some of their style. And that kind of gets me in the mind of thinking about like community in independent game development for you. Where does community play a role in any of those facets?
Yeah, I have like a selection of not a selection, like just a assortment of online friends that I've made through the years that just we share games, and I'm always seeing theirs and they're seeing mine, and we play each other's games, and sometimes we'll play test and stuff. And yeah, it's cool. I haven't made a lot of, actually not until like a year ago. I haven't made like any IRL friends that make games. It's always been this like internet thing, and
Hmm.
it's really interesting, the differences between like, I don't know if it's for every game developer, but you tend to like compare yourself to other developers and stuff. And when I see like on the internet, I'm like comparing myself to like the developers that are making games that are selling a million copies,
Right.
and it can be disheartening. But then I like show a friend something I've made, something like really simple, and they're like you know the just a random friend from my non-internet life, and
Yeah.
they're like extremely impressed. They're like,
Mm.
you made this? And it's like, yeah, it's not that hard. And it's just like a totally different reaction you get from, depending on where I'm like sharing the games and stuff. And so I started going to these like local meetups every, I don't know, not super often, but it's been cool to meet some like real developers in the flesh. And
Yeah.
a lot of them are, I mean, a good chunk of them are like work in the games industry, which I've never really worked in.
Yeah.
But there's some that don't, and are like me, that just work in tech, or they work wherever and then they make their games on the side. So yeah, it's been cool doing that too. I think I needed to do that earlier.
Mm.
I think it's just something I was missing out on. And
Yeah.
I make my games pretty solo, but I've worked a little bit with people. But yeah, it's just really important to like, I don't know if commiserate's the right word, but just like, yeah, have someone to talk to about the process, and like, yeah, because especially like the solo dev thing can be a bit lonely when you're, especially in like the middle of a project where you
Hmm.
like don't, I don't know, there's not like, you're not getting like, there's a certain point where you just don't get much feedback, because like the stuff you're working on isn't, there's no visual changes.
Yeah.
So you start to like second guess yourself and be like, is this even good? Like,
Hmm.
does are people going to like this at all? Like, and you start like maybe comparing your unreleased project to something that someone's released, and you don't realize that they went through like a bunch of different iterations, and you're only comparing their like current iteration to their like final iteration. And yeah, so it's like nice having people in the real world, or just like a internet community somewhere where you can just be like honest about what's going on, and get like maybe more feedback, because it's good to have like honest feedback, but
Yeah.
it's also good just to have like solely positive, like, hey, keep it up. Like, i
Yeah.
think i think
Support.
you need both of those things, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like there's a place for both the internet relationships and the in-person reaction, because folks on the internet obviously easier to find and easier to kind of pin into the niche where we are. But there's nothing like, yeah, like seeing someone face to face and getting that little. There's something in the human brain that values that as well that we can't get on the internet. So it's cool to hear that you're doing IRL meetups. Before we get on to talking about good, I had one last question. In a recent blog post that I know you're still working on, you wrote that the last game you finished was an auto battler with simple graphics, where more people said they wanted to play it than actually played it. And I'm interested kind of in this idea of like a hype gap, if you will. I'm making up that term, but I see it a lot in indie games where like things will get kind of blown up on social media, or they'll be kind of like talked about, not necessarily as far as like the huge releases, like not of late Mina the Hollower or like earlier this year, Mugenics, but more like kind of smaller indie games where folks are, maybe just folks I follow or kind of in this echo chamber of like, this is awesome, like sharing it, liking it, what have you. But then like where the rubber meets the road, like, are they actually downloading it, playing it? Even if it's a free game, I feel like those numbers are a lot lower some of the time. And so I was wondering, like, do you have any thoughts on this idea of a hype gap? But then in general, like, what do you think of maybe ways to combat this? Or what's your idea of like sharing but not playing, or playing but not sharing, or anything along those lines? Just because it's something I'm interested in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have I don't think I have a great answer. I mean, it's something I think about a lot, obviously. And I think about like the marketing side of things. Like I do think a lot about like why do games blow up?
Yeah.
Like there's no um, like there's one game that I was seeing for a long time, and it got like a ton of hype, and then they put it out in early access, and I could tell just by the number of reviews it's not. But it was like hyped up for a really long time.
Mm.
So I think they're like, maybe you need like, in order for it to work right, there has to be this like line of like you have to release at the most hype,
Yeah.
because if there's like a gap between when it's hyped and the release like too much, then people will like forget. um I don't know, everything in the internet's just like so fickle.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that I think that last small game that I made, Suns, it's this like auto battler, and it's just not, and really it's just not fun to play. It's like
Mm.
more of a fun concept. I thought it was a fun concept, and people I showed it to was like, wow, it's really interesting, because it's like you have, everything's like genetic, so you have these like characters that move solely in response to their genes, and then you combine genes with other characters, and you can kind of see how the genes are working.
Mm.
And so like on the like at a like on the abstract, it seems kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a lot of the comments I've gotten on it were like, I don't know what's happening. Like, this is cool, but I don't know what's happening. And it's like, it's hard to figure out it's just hard to figure out like what works and what doesn't. And I kind of have, but I played it so many times, but I'm like not even that, I'm like the best at the game probably, and I'm not even that good at it. So, yeah, it just like didn't, it was a 1 week thing, so it's not a big deal. It was really just a
Yeah.
prototype, but yeah, it was fun to try.
Now let's talk about good, which is the name of the game. I absolutely adore my time with it. I think it's rare these days that I sit down with any game, whether it's, kind of an hour cap, like good, or longer, and feel like I want to play it all the way through. And I feel like I could have kept playing good for hours and hours. I think thanks mainly to kind of the very snappy balance of like mini games to the earnest tone dialogue and story that you're telling. So to start, I would love for you to just tell me more about the game. I will describe it kind of at the start for my little intro, but I would love to hear it in your own words.
I mean, describing the game, I sometimes describe it as a short adventure game, but really it's a day in the life of an American high schooler.
Yeah.
Takes 1 to 2 hours to play, and it's a short story interspersed with mini games. It's kind of also like, I kind of feel like it's sort of like how they talk about Seinfeld, like a show about nothing. It's a game about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like big, I don't know. I also haven't, there's no like big enemy that's tipped off at the beginning. There's no like real mystery necessarily. There's no objectives. And you're kind of just along for the ride.
Yeah.
It ended up being a lot more on rails than I originally suspected. I thought I was gonna like kind of weave this narrative and have a lot of different places you could go, but really that didn't happen much. It was really just like you kind of just participate in the story whether you want to or not. And there's some choices that do impact the game, whether that be like actual text choices or your ability to like finish a mini game, have to like give different endings to the game. So yeah, that's about it. I did everything. I did the art, the music, the coding, kind of, and like I technically built the engine. I use this like low level multimedia framework called Ka to do everything. So that gives it's similar to like SDL, but yeah. So like I made like a small lightweight engine, I guess I would say, but
Very cool.
nothing crazy. And yeah, it was a really fun. I mean, for the most part, it was a pretty fun thing to make. And it took a few years, but I definitely did not work on it straight for a few years. There was like from the first mini game to maybe when it released, it's like 2.5 years, but there was like a lot of 6 month gaps where I didn't touch it at all and worked on a bunch of other stuff. So
Yeah.
I'd say like six months, maybe if you condensed it down to like 40-hour work weeks, maybe even less, maybe like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Did it start with the baseball mini game and balloon out from there?
I don't remember actually. There was like another, the first part of the game, you start in like a dream. You're jumping on clouds. I might have made that part first before the baseball.
I
don't remember, but
did it come to you as this like idea to start out?
I had a different story. It's kind of funny thinking about it now because I had a totally different story originally. Not totally different, but yeah, it was, I think it was more about like, the game was more about like trying to meet this girl, but I don't know. I just didn't like it as much. And I think I just ended up having it more of like, having it just more meandering and less of like a strict plot necessarily.
Yeah. And I think in that way, it mirrors kind of a broad high school experience for a lot of folks, where it's like you're just going through the day, like trying to make it work, which also made the mini games feel what were very simple mini games. A lot of the time, like when you're trying to take a poop, you're just like going up. You're doing a platformer, like the most basic possible. But like then when you're falling down, you're like, what does this represent? Like when you miss a jump or what have you. And I just thought it was so cool how in context, even the smallest kind of most basic of like video game, mini game where you're like run and jump, took on these thoughts that were both humorous, but also like made you think about game design in a way, or it made me think in that way. I saw in the credits that one of your playtesters was named Chris, and the main character's best friend in the game is named Chris. Um, and that kind of brought up the question to me, which I was thinking throughout: to what degree is good autobiographical? Are there any parts that are from your life or that reflect your experience, or was it mostly just you being like, I'm going to pick a kid and like we'll figure out what his story is?
Yeah, I think Chris was just so that's just a coincidence. I actually had the character Chris before so the playtest to Chris, um, his handle is Turd Boomerang. That's his like internet handle, and he's a game developer. He's a really good game dev.
Cool.
And I don't think I even knew his name was Chris, but when I asked him to play test, maybe I did. But I think I just picked a random name in the files. So like the character in Good Baseball, the asset might be Chris.png. I think I just like was like, what's the name? Chris. And then and then I don't think I was going to even use his name until like, I think when you meet your older brother is the first time the name Chris even comes up. But yeah, it was just like, really the whole game was just like, this would be fun. Why don't I do this? And that's kind of how I made it. And
yeah,
I think that I'm like not comparing myself to like these like great directors that I like, but that's what they do. They're just like, oh, wouldn't that be a good idea? And they just do it. And I'm like, I don't need everything to be all thought out. Like if it works, I can just put it in there. And, this isn't like that. This isn't that serious, So I think I like that aspect of it where I don't have to like, it doesn't really matter. I can do whatever I want. So that's and that's like why I make games. It's like there's no rules at all like to what I do. Which I think it's like the best part of it.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to perceive it, and I think it's also you see it anywhere along the line from like whether we're talking game developers, movie directors, what have you. It seems like the folks who are at the height of their success are when they are able to play or like feel like their work is kind of a playground and that they have license. And while so much more goes into it than that, it's not like anyone off the street can just be like, if you gave me the budget, I would make a great movie or a great game or what have you. But I think the fact that like someone like me who hasn't made a game on Steam, or someone like me who hasn't made a movie, sees whether it's a game developer I like or a director I like being so confident and kind of in flow when they're discussing their vision, it kind of almost gives that impression that I could, even though I have none of the skills. And I feel like that's kind of that's a cool vibe to get. It shows like a lot of self-confidence in the work. And speaking of the work, I found it very cool to see how good is like a culmination of a lot of like kind of the prototypes and smaller work, at least that you have to like play and sample online. You have the baseball minigame just by itself on your website. And you also, the surfing game is pretty similar to another one of your fun small games called Sign Surf. And I saw you refer to good as your life's work in one place I was reading. I forget where. Maybe that was facetious, maybe not. Tell me more about this distinction and what the game means to you.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's just the most complete thing I've ever made.
Yeah.
And even though I still kind of like, I still cringe when I just show it to like when I show it to anybody, like real life. I don't know, just meet a random person and I show them that game. It still feels weird to just show somebody, this is what I've been working on for, but yeah, it's just the most complete thing I've ever done. And none of the people are really based on any people. Like I don't have an older brother. I have a younger brother. Maybe like a little bit of my parents, but not really. Like they're not really. The parents are more based off of the closest thing I can think is like the mom and dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, and which my mom is kind of like the mom from Malcolm in the Middle, but not exact, like not really, but there are some like maybe they should share some traits. My dad is definitely not like Bryan Cranston at all in that in Malcolm in the Middle. So yeah, I don't know. I just like um, yeah, it was definitely like the most complete thing I've made, and um, I was really glad I finished. Like I didn't know how long it was going to be. Like I kind of wish it came out longer. And the feedback I've gotten is that it's short. I just like didn't know what else to add, and it's kind of funny. I played. Have you played Consume Me?
I have played the demo. I haven't played the full thing, but
So that was like
I know
my
the vibe.
yeah, that was my game of the year 2025, and I played it and I was like, oh, like that's what I wanted to do with
Mm,
Good. Like that's what I wish I. I mean, it took them like 10 years to make that, and
yeah,
they had a team, um, but this like connecting the numbers to like real life, like quantifying real life events that maybe shouldn't be quantified, like
yeah,
that kind of aspect. I don't know. It was just so cool. And
yeah.
after playing it, because I think it came out. I mean, it came out around the same time as Good. I didn't play it until after, but
Mm,
after I put out the game. But yeah, it was just like, man, I wish I could have done that. Like that's definitely one of the games that I've played. And then after that, I started like mentally prototyping like my Consume Me, like a sequel to Good, where it's like the character, it's like a week instead of a day, and it's like a week during winter break from college. And I just
mm.
had all these like ideas come up, and so I'm like, I don't know, that might get made someday. It's not probably in the near future or anything, but yeah. Um, I don't really know where I was going with that, but
No, that's cool. It's also fascinating that like it's an inspiration after the fact,
mhm.
where it's like you already made a game that I would say, I hadn't thought of that off the top of my head because I hadn't played all of Consume Me. But now that you mention it, like it is very similar. And if you're trying to find like DNA in more of a like pop culture of games, like that would probably be as close as you can get. And so like it's very yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, and I would love to see what that would look like. I love like winter themes in games. They're
Mhm.
very cozy and provide, I think, an interesting backdrop. So if you ever make it, would love to hear about it. And you're welcome back on the show anytime, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Um, Good also made me feel kind of nostalgic in a way where like I feel this way about a lot of my college experiences where like in the moment I was not having a good time, like whether it's like sad or like grimy or like what have you. When I look back on it, like I like see brighter colors and hear softer sounds. And I was wondering like through this lens, how do you view games as like a storytelling device? How much does that come up for you when making a game?
I always thought like of myself as a game developer, like I want to make these really complex systems.
Mm,
Like I want to make like the next Dwarf Fortress or whatever. And
hmm
I never really think about like story is definitely like was never a thing I thought about. And
hmm
then I made a game with like a little bit of a story. I thought it was really dumb and it wasn't good, but people liked it.
mm.
And then I made the demo for Good, and people were like, "This is really funny." And I was like, "Is it? Like, it's not." And I still like wouldn't always believe that people thought it was funny. And I was
Mm,
like, I'm just like, maybe there's like jokes in there, but it's not like I'm not trying really hard to like make like I'm not making like a comedy game,
right.
and then I took it to this like meetup and had some people play it, and like people were like laughing out loud, like playing it, and I was like, that's it's like it just like wasn't what I expected, and yeah, so it's not something I necessarily think about, like the you know the I'm not really like thinking about trying to tell a story. It's just more like, I think a lot of it is just like gut feeling, and
Yeah.
it's just made over time. It's made like really, any of that, the story stuff is made very slowly. Like I have like Notion. That's where I use to keep all my notes and stuff. And I have
Yeah.
it, I have the app on my phone, and I think of an idea. I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. So the goods Notion is by far the longest Notion I have, like page I have, and there's so many ideas. Like, yeah, like there's one of the few jokes I can think of is these two girls are talking at a party, and one's smoking a cigarette, and she's like, "Oh, I give up sitting." And then she's like, "Oh, you're off of sitting?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm off sitting," which like, it's just a mirrors conversations I overhear where someone's like, "Oh, I quit gluten," or "I quit,
Yeah.
whatever." Like, and I'm sure there's people out there that are like, sitting is, I mean, sitting is kind of bad, I guess, but it's just funny to think of someone like swearing it off. And
Yeah.
I wrote that down, and like, it was deep somewhere. I was like, "Oh, I'll just insert that into conversation. Like, I need something for these two people to say. I'll insert that into the conversation."
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I have that for other games too. I have like bits and pieces of talk and whatnot, but most of my notes are more like technical. Yeah, they're also yeah, it's dialogue ideas that come up. So I don't really
Yeah.
have a ton of ideas for like plot necessarily.
It's interesting because like I think you could ask, however many game developers and hear that many different answers when it comes to these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also fascinating that like while you it sounds like are mainly thinking like I need things to put here to like string these mini games together in a game like Good, and then like it becomes a story that someone who's playing it might be like, wow, like the mini games were fine, but like what a story, or like I really connected with like that boy's experience, and it's like it's funny. Or you described it even with like I am not thinking, or you're saying like I'm not thinking this game's funny at all, and then like people are laughing out loud or like telling me it's really funny. And it's just so fascinating in art, how you're making a thing, and in solo game development in particular, you're making a thing for so long just on your own, kind of in this chamber of your own thoughts, and then when it comes out into the world, it can have all of these side effects that you weren't aware of. And I just think it's like it's scary since you're putting work into this, but it's also like beautiful in a way. And I think it speaks to what a lot of the reason why I do this show, and a lot of the reason why I'm interested in community and games, is because they are such, we've talked about this in the interview, like multifaceted things. And so many people can derive so much joy from them from different angles. And I think that's beautiful. Speaking of beauty and good, the music is gorgeous. Tell me more about your music process, about the writing and recording, and what's your music setup like at home?
I wanted to, I think before I got into games, like I wanted to be a musician, electronic musician, and I just like couldn't put in the effort necessary. And I don't want to like try to do this like, I don't know. I'm not trying to like insult my own abilities. I just don't think I have like the ear necessary to like really get like what I, at least like the musicians I like, they have just such a good ear for like sounds and the way things should be like mixed. And I'm just not good at mixing. And like, I've obviously gotten better at these kinds of things, but um, I'm lucky that I've had so much time making music, because I've gotten my ear to a point where I can just like know what sounds good or not. For some reason with making games, I just make the music really fast, and I don't think too much about it. And for this, all the songs are in major keys, and they were supposed to follow the circle of fifths,
Mm.
but they don't necessarily like. I set out to do that from the beginning, but I don't think they did. It worked out that way. So it was supposed to almost feel like one long song, but the songs are really different. And yeah, so that didn't really work out. But yeah, I just like I kind of made this stuff quickly and kept it really simple. Like a lot of stuff has just one track or two tracks, and maybe the most complex is like the intro music, which I kind of reused. I reused the melody in like 3 different songs. There's like a vaporwave version where it's like slowed when the brothers are riding in the car, and then there's a like not a hyper pop, but like a happy hardcore version. I really wish like on later projects I could have more of like there could be like more energy put into like sound design and stuff. Actually, what I kind of liked more was in Good was I have like a Zoom recorder, and I was watching my parents' dog for a couple weeks the summer before Good came out or something, and they live like on the East Coast, and that's like where I grew up and where the game kind of takes place. And I just use the Zoom recorder to record like background sounds. So like the cicadas or bugs in the background were from my parents' house, and then some of the beach sounds, same thing. They're like a half an hour from the beach, so I went to the beach one day and just recorded some audio, and that was really cool. And like one thing I love music. Like music's like my favorite. Like I like music more than games. Like music's like just my favorite thing ever. But the more I've gotten into games, like the less I think games even deserve soundtracks. Like I'm like they shouldn't. I don't know why, but like we shouldn't. I don't know. I have these weird ideas. We shouldn't really be putting music in games. They should be all. This isn't like I don't actually believe this, but I like halfway believe this. Like the movie No Country for Old Men. If you've seen that movie, there's no soundtrack in that.
Yeah.
And there's a few other movies that I've seen where there's no soundtrack, and it's fine. It's good, and I like it. And yeah, I've just thought about like, yeah, the longer I've made games, the more I'm like, this doesn't need music. Like we don't need to be putting music here. It doesn't really, it doesn't always serve a purpose. I don't know. That's more of like maybe an outlandish belief of mine. Because there's a bunch of music in Good, and I think there's like, and it does serve a purpose, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something I think about. Like there were scenes where I thought about adding music, but I was like, no, background noise is fine.
Yeah.
And I'll probably do that going forward, especially in any games that have like a story or a narrative. Like I'll probably do that more. I feel like they don't need as much music as I think they do.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a potential game recommendation for you if you like experimenting with very little music in games. The Crimson Diamond. Have you heard of it?
So I follow the dev, and I just haven't had time to play the Crimson Diamond yet.
That's the only game I played recently that struck me with how little music there is in it. There is some, but for a lot of it, you're just like walking around and doing the text parser and typing in, which is it kind of adds to the vibe in a way, that space. So it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And in The Legend of the River King, they have a bunch of sections with no music.
Yeah. That kind of brings it full circle.
Yeah. So in Isle, I was trying to replicate The Legend of the River King by adding background sounds made by synthesizers.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that, and I thought it would be easier, and it's not. It's hard to like get like a frog chirping or a bird chirping and make it like sound good. And like it's hard to make it sound like in the mix. It just whenever I did it, it just sounded it just sounded out of place when I did it in Isle. So I just had to like really knock it back volume wise, I think.
Well, it's interesting also to hear the distinction in your mind between like music and like background noise or like sound effects. Cause I think for some people, they might just treat the whole thing as like the audio design of the game. But playing good, like those sound effects that you mentioned, recording like do add so much ambiance to like the quieter moments. And so, yeah, that's just a cool distinction. To wrap up here, Tyler, I would love to hear just about some of your favorite indie games to play. Feel free to list specific titles or designers. Just some of your favorite games. Could be over the years, could be recent. You already mentioned Consume Me, which is a great one.
Yeah. I did one of those like top 9 games a while back on Blue Sky or whatever, but I was going to look at them. But, well, Terry Kavanaugh, do you know Terry Kavanaugh?
I don't. I might know some of the
Made
titles.
VVV, and
Okay, yeah,
then
I've heard of that.
Super Hexagon, and then Dicey
Yeah.
Dungeons.
Oh yeah, I've played Dicey Dungeons. Yeah.
Yeah, very different games. I don't know. He's cool, and I like how he talks about games. Years ago, so there's a podcast called The Secret Life of Games. It's gone through like a couple different names, but that's what it's called now. Terry Kavanaugh's episode is really cool, and they talk about they just talk about like the game process and like trusting your gut and like how they make games, and it's just like refreshing because it doesn't sound like other stuff I've heard. And there's like a couple anecdotes in there about like just the game process or even non-game like artistic processes that I found like really cool. So I'll like really listen to that episode every like couple years because it just like has a lot of good stuff in it.
That's
The whole
sweet.
podcast is good, but yeah, Terry Kavanaugh's games. Consume Me, which I mentioned before, is awesome. I really liked Animal Well. I was actually listening to a podcast with Billy Basso, the creator, before I jumped on here.
Cool.
And yeah, there's a lot. Nico Atsume. Have you ever played that game? Kitty Collector. It's a mobile
I don't think
game.
so. No.
It's like a game where you have a yard and you can put food out and toys, and you have cats that come and play with your toys and eat your food and then leave. And like the more I talk about it, I'm like, this is genius. This is like the perfect game because you're not actually like collecting animals. You're just taking pictures of ones that visit your yard and then they leave. And it's just so perfect. And I'm like, and the developers have this other game that's in Japanese. The game's Japanese, it was localized. They have this other game that was never localized where it's like just the idea of it, like you're a parent, you're like a frog, and or maybe your kid's a frog, I don't know. But your kid goes on vacation. Your kid's always traveling and sends you postcards sometimes, and you're like a worried parent trying to like keep up with your kid's life. And it's like, that's such an ingenious idea for a game. Like no one would ever think of that. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it was just really refreshing to see a game like that. So games like that, like Baby Steps that came out recently. Baby Steps was such a cool idea, hilarious.
Yeah.
I've listened to a bunch of talks, and it's so funny when you like hear them talk because they're the voices in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, Baby Steps is really good. I wrote some down. Oh, Age of Empires 2, definitely. And then, so it's not a game, but have you ever, it's like it's a multimedia story. Do you know John Boyce?
I
John
don't.
Boy. Bois is how you spell his last name.
Okay.
He made this story. It's called like 17776. So like 17776. And it's
Whoa.
what football will look like in the future. And it's a story told from the perspective of 3 sentient satellites that watch humans play football. And there's so many like ingenious storytelling techniques done, and it's made in just like HTML. So you have like videos, text, pictures, a whole selection of things to tell this story. And the story is told from a bunch of different perspectives, not just the satellites, but like newspaper clippings and stuff like that, like interviews. And that was just, I think, one of the more inspiring pieces pieces of media I've experienced, because it's like, it's cool realizing you can tell a story in that way.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like I touched on earlier, like there's no rules. Like, he took it to that extreme where it was like, there's no reason why I can't tell a story with, a bunch of different narrative perspectives and videos and music and images instead of just regular text. Like, it's just really cool. So that's like a thing. If I were to get anyone to watch / listen / play anything, it would be 17/7/76 would be the thing.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely link all of those in the show notes alongside the link to Good and your website and your games. Thank you so much, Tyler, for being here. Such an interesting conversation. And like I said, you're welcome back on the show anytime, whenever you want to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun.
And that was Tyler, username Zzox. If you're listening to this, Good, his commercial release on Steam, should be on sale for the next 3 days during the Steam summer sale or something like that. So you should go grab it. And at the very least, go ahead and wishlist it, and it'll pop up the next time it's on sale. Or you could get it full price and support Tyler and his lovely work. It's quite a short game, but it is a real bang for its buck in all the meaning that it packs in. So go ahead and support Tyler. Why not learn about an average day in the life of an American teenage boy through Tyler's eyes with a bunch of fun mini games? The baseball alone is worth it, in my opinion. And let me know what you think. You can email me at indiegamegarden@gmail.com. You can follow me or just reach out via Blue Sky. I'm on there as Darth Malks, and that's Darth like Darth Vader, and then M is in Michael, ALKS is in Sam. I'm also on Instagram at indiegamegarden. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about how my brain wants to kind of always be doing the thing that I'm not doing, and it's a particular, we'll call it a mental illness of mine, where when I'm resting, I want to be working. When I'm working, I want to be resting. When I'm reading, I want to be gaming. When I'm gaming, I want to be reading. And it's not constant, but those kind of intrusive thoughts come in and wonder if what I'm doing in that moment is the right thing. And it makes presence a particularly hard to achieve aim in kind of living and being in flow with life. And one of the main times that I felt most at peace of late was when I returned to the game that will forever now be called the Meowgenics by Ed McMillan, just so we don't mistake it for that other nasty word. And I just realized that that's one of the things that I really appreciate about games, is not only that they're fun, not only that they can kind of open our mind and sharpen it in its different, their different strategies, or maybe the messages that they impart to us, similar to a storybook in that way, a novel. But what's unique to games is that they can be, at least for me, so engrossing that they can help us relax, even if our sort of full facilities and our full faculties are being used by the game. So I think that's why a lot of people get into sports. Certainly, that's what I've gotten out of sports in my life when I've played them. And it's also what I get out of the games that I really enjoy and like. Now, I think there is like a balance here because some games can definitely feel addicting to the point of us spending time on them that we don't necessarily have to spend, or spending money in the case of some predatory kind of mobile free-to-play games. But I think there is a sweet spot where we can use games as a sort of technique to engage and relax our minds in a way that I think feels so earnest and powerful. And that's just something that's been on my mind as I've revisited Meowgenics, which I think is like, it's a game that I tried to put down for a number of months because I was, kind of tipping over the scale into that maybe I shouldn't be spending quite as much time on this and be looking after a few other things. But it's really come back into the fold for me as my favorite game of the year so far. And so I'm playing a couple different games. You can hear about those over on my and my girlfriend Jamie's podcast, Game Joy. One of them's Demon School, which is super stylish tactics combat as well. But there's something about Meowgenics that I just can't put down and I think is really engaging and immersive in its kind of simulated elements, in the way you're customizing characters, in all the weirdness with the cats, which I still don't understand. Tyler and I talked a little bit about the game off air, so it was just present of mind and top of mind for me. But as always, I really appreciate you listening, especially to this little last spiel. If you're here till the end, you have made it, and I'm super grateful. Thank you for listening. The best thing you can do to support the show, in lieu of all those, reaching out and social media things, which can all too often feel overwhelming, is to just tell one friend, one video game inclined friend, or one friend who just likes to hear some nice conversations, maybe in the background of work or something like that. I don't do anything to advertise the show, and so not only will your word of mouth help me get new listeners, but it'll help me get new guests down the line as we stretch out into the 20s for our episodes here. It's been a great ride so far, and I can't wait to keep riding with you. So we'll chat soon, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.